I'm a 32-year-old marketing manager living in Denver. Nothing too exciting, but I've got a decent salary and a nice house in the suburbs that I've been sharing with my wife Sarah for the past 6 years. We got married when we were both 26 after dating for 3 years. I thought we had a solid relationship. We traveled together, we laughed together, we had our routines and our inside jokes. Sure, things had gotten a bit predictable lately, but I figured that was normal for married couples approaching their 30s. Sarah works as a graphic designer for a boutique firm downtown. She's always been the more social one between us, while I'm content staying home watching Netflix or working on my car in the garage. She's got this whole friend group from college that she's still really close with, and they go out for drinks every Friday night. I never minded, it gave me time to decompress from work, and she always came home with funny stories about their adventures. But about 3 months ago something started changing. Sarah became distant, not in an obvious way, but in those small ways that you notice when you've been with someone for years. She started staying out later on Friday nights. She'd come home and go straight to bed instead of curling up on the couch with me like she used to. She stopped asking about my day, and when I'd ask about her she'd give these short answers like she was trying to end the conversation quickly. I figured it was work stress, or maybe she was going through something personal that she wasn't ready to talk about yet. I gave her space because that's what good husbands do, right? We all need room to process things sometimes. But the distance kept growing, and I started feeling like I was living with a roommate instead of my wife. The conversation that changed everything happened on a Tuesday night in March. I was in the living room reading when Sarah came and sat across from me on the coffee table. She had this serious expression that immediately put me on edge. She said she needed to talk to me about something important, and my stomach dropped because nothing good ever follows that phrase. She took a deep breath and said, "I've been thinking about us lately, about our relationship and where we're headed." I put my book down and gave her my full attention, assuming we were about to have one of those check-in conversations that married couples need sometimes. But what came next completely blindsided me. "I think we need to explore our options while we're still young," she said. I stared at her, confused, asking what she meant by explore our options. She shifted uncomfortably and said, "I love you, but I feel like we're missing out on something. We got together so young and we've never really experienced other people or other relationships." My heart started racing, but I tried to stay calm. I asked her if she was unhappy with our marriage. She quickly said no, that wasn't it at all. She said she loved me and wanted to stay married, but she thought we should consider opening up our relationship. An open marriage would be good for both of us, she said. We could explore other connections while still maintaining what we have together. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to process what she was saying. My wife of 6 years, the woman I'd planned to grow old with, was asking permission to sleep with other people. She kept talking, saying she'd been researching it online and that lots of couples do it successfully. She said it could even strengthen our relationship by removing the pressure and monotony. I asked her if there was someone specific she had in mind. She hesitated for just a moment too long before saying no. She just wanted the freedom to explore if the opportunity arose. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. There was definitely someone. But here's the thing, instead of getting angry or trying to talk her out of it, I surprised myself by saying okay. She looked shocked, like she'd been prepared for a fight. I told her that if that's what she wanted, then we should try it. I said I trusted her, and if she thought it would be good for our relationship, then I was willing to explore it too. The relief on her face was honestly a little insulting. She hugged me and said she knew I'd understand and that this was going to be great for us. She started talking about ground rules and boundaries, but I could tell she was excited. She'd clearly been thinking about this for a while and probably hadn't expected me to agree so easily. We spent the next hour setting up the framework for our open marriage. No friends or coworkers to avoid complications. Always use protection. No sleepovers at our house. Complete honesty about any emotional connections that developed. And most importantly, our marriage came first always. She seemed happy that night, happier than she'd been in months. She cuddled up to me on the couch like old times and we watched a movie together. I played along, but inside I was already starting to form a plan. If Sarah wanted to explore her options, then I was going to explore mine too. The next morning she left for work with a spring in her step that I hadn't seen in ages. I went to the office but found it hard to concentrate. During my lunch break I did something I hadn't done in years. I downloaded a dating app. Actually, I downloaded 3 of them. If we were going to do this, I was going to do it right. I updated my profile to be honest about being married and looking for something casual. I was surprised by how many women were interested in that arrangement. Apparently there are a lot of people out there who want connection without commitment. Within a few days I was chatting with several different women and had set up a coffee date for the weekend. Sarah, meanwhile, had clearly wasted no time either. She started going out more often and staying out later. She'd come home with this glow that I recognized from our early dating days, except now it wasn't for me. She never volunteered details about her dates and I didn't ask. We'd agreed on honesty, but she seemed to interpret that as honesty only when directly questioned. My first date was with a woman named Jessica. She was a 29-year-old attorney who'd recently gotten out of a long relationship and wasn't looking for anything serious. We met at a coffee shop downtown and ended up talking for 3 hours. She was intelligent, funny, and incredibly easy to talk to. When she asked about my situation, I was honest about the open marriage and she said she appreciated the transparency. We started seeing each other regularly, maybe twice a week. Sometimes we'd grab dinner, sometimes we'd go to a museum or a concert. Jessica was everything Sarah used to be before we got comfortable. She was interested in my work, my hobbies, my thoughts on everything from politics to movies. She asked questions and actually listened to the answers. The physical connection developed naturally over a few weeks. Jessica never pressured me for more than I was comfortable giving, and I found myself looking forward to our time together more than I'd looked forward to anything in years. She made me feel wanted in a way I'd forgotten was possible. At home, Sarah was practically glowing with her new arrangement. She'd leave for her dates humming and come back looking satisfied in every sense of the word. She never asked about my dating life and seemed to assume I was just sitting at home waiting for her return. The few times she bothered to check in, it was more out of obligation than genuine interest. After about a month of this, Jessica and I had developed something that felt like a real relationship. We had inside jokes, shared experiences, and a level of intimacy that went beyond the physical. She was supportive when I had a rough day at work and celebrated with me when I got a promotion. She made me remember what it felt like to be truly seen by another person. One evening I came home from a particularly wonderful date with Jessica to find Sarah waiting up for me. She was sitting on the couch with her arms crossed and an expression I couldn't quite read. She asked where I'd been and I told her I'd been on a date. Her face fell and she asked with who. I told her about Jessica, keeping it general but mentioning that we'd been seeing each other regularly. Sarah's entire demeanor changed. She asked how regularly and I said a couple times a week. She wanted to know what we did together and I gave her a brief overview: dinner, movies, conversations. Are you sleeping with her? She asked, and there was an edge to her voice that surprised me. I reminded her that we'd agreed to be honest and said yes, we were intimate. Her face went pale and she asked if I had feelings for her. I paused, considering how to answer truthfully, and said that I cared about Jessica as a person. Sarah stood up abruptly and started pacing. She said this wasn't what she'd had in mind when we agreed to open the marriage. I asked her what she meant and she said she thought we'd just be having casual hookups, not developing relationships with other people. I pointed out that we hadn't specifically discussed that limitation and asked her to clarify what she'd expected. She couldn't give me a clear answer, but she was obviously upset. She said she didn't think I'd actually find someone, or that if I did it would be just physical. I asked her if she'd developed feelings for whoever she was seeing and she got defensive, saying that was different. I laughed at that and asked how it was different. She stammered something about how women connect emotionally more easily than men do. I told her that sounded like a double standard and she got angry, saying I was missing the point. I asked her what the point was exactly. The point is that you're not supposed to find someone better than me. She finally shouted and everything became crystal clear. The open marriage wasn't about exploration or growth or any of the reasons she'd given me. It was about her having her cake and eating it too. She wanted the freedom to be with other people while keeping me as her safety net. I asked her if she'd expected me to just sit at home lonely while she went out and had fun. She said no, but she clearly hadn't thought through what it would actually mean for me to date other people. In her mind, I was supposed to be unsuccessful at it, or at least less successful than she was. She begged me to stop seeing Jessica, saying we needed to close the marriage back up and work on our relationship. I asked her if she was willing to stop seeing whoever she was dating. She hesitated and said it was complicated because she'd developed feelings too. I pointed out the hypocrisy and she started crying. Through her tears, she admitted that she'd been seeing her coworker Marcus for 2 months before she even brought up the open marriage idea. She said they'd been flirting and she knew she wanted to explore it, but she didn't want to cheat. The whole open marriage conversation had been her way of getting permission for something she was already emotionally invested in. I felt a cold calm settle over me. I told her I appreciated her honesty, but that changed things significantly. She'd essentially been having an emotional affair and then manipulated me into agreeing to an arrangement that legitimized it. She tried to argue that she hadn't technically done anything wrong, but I cut her off. I told her that I needed time to think and process everything she'd just told me. She panicked and said we could work through this, that we just needed to adjust the boundaries. I said the boundaries had been crossed before they were even established and left the room. That night I called Jessica and explained what had happened. She listened without judgment and then said something that stuck with me. It sounds like your wife wanted an insurance policy, not an open marriage. She was absolutely right. Jessica asked what I wanted to do and I realized I already knew. I told her I was going to file for divorce. She didn't try to talk me out of it or make promises about our future together. She just said she supported whatever decision I made and that she'd be there for me through the process. The next morning I told Sarah I was done. She immediately started bargaining, saying we could go back to monogamy and work on our relationship in counseling. I told her it was too late for that. She'd shown me who she really was, someone who would manipulate and lie to get what she wanted while expecting me to be content with the scraps. She broke down completely, screaming that this wasn't what she wanted. She said she'd made a mistake and that she chose me. I told her she'd had me all along and chose to risk it for someone else. She said she loved me more than Marcus, and I told her that didn't matter anymore because I didn't love her. That wasn't entirely true in that moment, but it felt true enough. The woman I'd loved wouldn't have done this to us. The woman crying in front of me was a stranger who happened to share some memories with me. She begged me to reconsider, saying she'd do anything to fix this. I told her the only thing that would fix it was if she could go back in time and choose our marriage over her selfishness, but since that wasn't possible, we were done. I moved out that weekend, staying with a friend while I looked for my own place. Sarah called and texted, constantly alternating between apologies and anger. Sometimes she'd blame me for taking the open marriage too seriously, and other times she'd blame herself for suggesting it at all. The divorce process was surprisingly smooth since we didn't have kids or significant shared assets. Sarah tried to drag it out hoping I'd change my mind, but I was resolute. I'd seen who she really was and there was no coming back from that. Update 1. It's been 3 months since I moved out and the divorce was finalized last week. Sarah has been on a campaign to win me back that's been both pathetic and infuriating. She sent flowers to my office, written me long letters about how she's learned from her mistakes, and even showed up at my new apartment crying. The funniest part is that her relationship with Marcus imploded almost immediately after I left. Turns out when the thrill of sneaking around was gone, they didn't actually have much in common. She told me this during one of her many attempts to get me back, as if I was supposed to feel sorry for her. She's been telling everyone that we're just taking a break and that we'll work things out eventually. Our mutual friends have been reaching out asking what really happened, and I've been honest about the whole situation. Most of them have been supportive and several admitted they'd suspected Sarah was up to something. Her family has been calling me too, trying to mediate. Her mother actually had the nerve to suggest that I was being too harsh and that all marriages go through rough patches. I told her that rough patches are one thing but manipulation and lies are something else entirely. Jessica and I are still seeing each other, but we're taking things slow. She's been incredibly patient with me through this whole process, never pressuring me for more commitment than I'm ready to give. We've talked about the future, but we're both focused on enjoying what we have now. Sarah found out about Jessica through social media because she's been stalking my accounts even though I blocked her. She created fake profiles to keep tabs on me, which is honestly creepy as hell. She sent me a long message saying she couldn't believe I was flaunting my new relationship while our marriage was falling apart. I responded by pointing out that our marriage fell apart the moment she decided to cheat and then manipulate me into legitimizing it. I told her that Jessica wasn't a rebound or a way to hurt her, but someone who'd shown me what a healthy relationship actually looks like. Update 2. 6 months post-divorce and my life has completely transformed. I'm happier than I've been in years, and I've realized how much of myself I'd lost trying to make my marriage work. Sarah had a way of making me feel like I was never quite enough, like I needed to constantly prove my worth to her. Jessica and I made our relationship official last month. She's met my friends and family and everyone loves her. My mom actually pulled me aside and said she could see how much happier I am now. She admitted she'd always felt like Sarah was a bit self-centered but hadn't wanted to interfere. Sarah meanwhile has been spiraling. According to mutual friends, she's been dating constantly but nothing's sticking. She apparently told someone that every guy she meets is boring compared to me and that she's ruined the best thing in her life. I feel bad for her on a human level, but I don't feel responsible for her choices. She tried one last grand gesture about a month ago. She showed up at my office with a PowerPoint presentation about why we should get back together. Security had to escort her out and I had to get a restraining order. The presentation included charts about our compatibility statistics from our time together and a timeline of our relationship highlighting only the good parts. The restraining order seemed to finally get through to her that I was serious about being done. She sent one final message through a mutual friend saying she understood now and that she hoped I'd be happy. It felt like closure in a way, though I'd already moved on emotionally. Jessica has been amazing through all of this. She never gets jealous of Sarah's antics or makes me feel guilty for my past. She's secure in herself and in our relationship in a way Sarah never was. We laugh together, travel together, and support each other's goals and dreams. Update 3. It's been almost a year since the divorce and I couldn't be happier with how everything turned out. Jessica and I moved in together 2 months ago and we're talking about getting engaged. She's everything I didn't know I was missing in a partner, someone who chooses me every day instead of looking for reasons to stray. I ran into Sarah at the grocery store last week and barely recognized her. She looked tired and older than her years. She tried to make small talk asking about my work and my family, but I kept it brief and polite. She mentioned that she's in therapy working on herself and I told her I was glad to hear it. As I was leaving she called my name and when I turned around she said, "I know I messed up. I know I lost the best thing in my life. I just want you to know that I understand now what I threw away." I nodded and said I hoped she found happiness, and then I walked away. Driving home I felt a mix of emotions, but mostly just gratitude. Gratitude that her betrayal had freed me to find someone who actually deserves me. Gratitude that I'd had the strength to walk away instead of accepting less than I deserved. And gratitude that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you leads to the best thing that ever happened to you. Sarah's manipulation had been a gift in disguise. By trying to have it all, she'd ended up with nothing, while I'd ended up with everything I'd ever wanted. The open marriage she'd pushed for had opened my eyes to what I was missing and introduced me to the love of my life. Sometimes when people try to play games with your heart, the best revenge is simply being happy without them. Sarah wanted her cake and eat it too, but in the end she got neither, while I got the whole bakery.